we got a microphone here or something?
I think they're right here.
Hi, welcome to tonight's Candidate Forums, sponsored by the Greater Kokomo Economic Development Alliance, the Kokomo Tribune, the Kokomo Perspective, and the League of Women Voters. It is such a pleasure to see such a turnout for this community gathering. So thank you for your support, first and foremost. We're looking forward to a great evening, and I'm going to introduce Peg Harmon. She is the president of the League of Women Voters of Hamilton County. She will be our moderator this evening. So if you guys could all give her a round of applause, we'll get tonight started. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone, and I would like to I'm going to start with introducing the panelists. And our first seat here, we have Don Wilson from the Kokomo Perspective. In the middle seat is Jeff Kowalowski from the Kokomo Tribune. And on my right-hand side, we have Marcus Meisnick, and he is with Bailiff, Harrigan, Cord, Moggins, and Cox, and he represents the Chamber of Commerce. And our two candidates for our first session tonight, we're going to be doing District 1 first, followed by District 4, and at the end of the evening we'll be doing the mayoral forum. So our candidates for District 1, we have Jason Aaron and and Mike Wyatt. Just so you know, we're going to start with a 1-minute opening statement, and then the panelists will take turns asking questions. They will alternate in the order that they answer the questions, and at the end they will have a 2-minute ending statement. So, Sandy, do you want to go ahead and show them the signs? We have a 30-second reminder for you so you know when you've only got 30 seconds left in your minute, and then your stop sign. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. And I guess I don't. Oh, yes. Thank you, Jeff. The candidates, would you like to go ahead with your opening statements? And since I have Jason, you go first on the first question, I am going to have Mike, if you start with the opening statement.
Okay, thank you. I'm Mike Wyatt, and I've lived in the North End 55 years in my district, and I'm married to Nancy. We've been married 52 years, and we have 3 children, and but I'm one of 16 children. My mother had 16 children in 18 years. I came from nothing. I'm honored. I used to live in Gateway Gardens, and I'm honored to sit on the council for the last 17 years. I've been there, and I've been honored to be there. I try to make the right calls, and I look at everything. I have never had a call come into my home from one of my district that I did not go out and check it out and then tell them, solve the problem. If I couldn't solve the problem, then I tell them why. But I've never had a call come to my house that I did not respond to in the last 17 years. And I say it again, that I am honored to sit there. I'm honored to be a little part of this city on what has happened in the last 17 years. And I don't know, I'm just honored to be there, and I see I gotta quit, and thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for having this.
Jason?
Hello, I'm Jason Acord. I've also lived on the North End all my life. Been in the same house for about 25 years. Been married to my wife. Me and her have lived there for 25 years. We've been married 21 years today, as a matter of fact, of all the days. I have one son. He's 23 years old. I have a 3-year-old grandson. I'm honored to be able to say here myself. I'm kind of like Mike. I grew up in a poor environment, kindly, and just kind of worked all my life. And I've always just had if you work hard, you can have anything you want attitude. I have a can-do attitude. I could pretty much fix anything in my mind. And if I can't fix it, I've got a resource that can do it. So I'm very resourceful, and I look at my north end where I live and I see that there's a lot of issues there, and I would like to help change that.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go ahead with the questions now. Don, do you have a question for our first candidate? And it will be, Jason will answer first.
Hello, Jason.
Hi, Donnie.
Quality of place. Many studies indicate serves as the primary driver for members of the younger generation when choosing a city to reside in. How would you like to see city tax dollars spent in order to improve quality of place?
I couldn't hear him. Could you hear him?
Not at all.
Yeah, I couldn't hear him.
You're going to have to grab the microphone.
Sorry, hear that?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
All right. Quality of place. Many studies indicate serves as the primary driver for members of the younger generation when choosing a city to reside in. How would you like to see city tax dollars spent in order to improve quality of place?
Quality of place for the younger generation to come here. Well, I think that IUK is doing some fine things to help facilitate that. I think the more that they grow here, the more that the younger folks will want to come here. And I think I wouldn't have any control over that as a city council member at all. You know, of what that, you know, that would be a mayoral decision to make on how he appropriates the programs to make that happen. But I would be more than happy to work with either, you know, any mayor to make that happen.
You wouldn't give any input with tax dollars that you've okayed?
I haven't okayed any tax dollars because I'm not a council member.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes, you know, I often stress to the children, and I see a lot of kids. I even go to the schools, especially Bon Air School. And you can't hear me?
Do we have anybody who's in charge of the? Okay.
Now can you hear me? All right. Well, anyway, as far as tax dollars concerned, I think you know, we're spending the tax dollars now pretty wisely. We build up, you know, back when I started on the city council, let's say 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I go to City Hall, and so help me, there was not a car uptown. There was nobody walking uptown. Now you look at it today. We've already improved the quality of life for this city, and we want to continue that. And a lot of people, you know, say we haven't, but I know we have. Like I say, when I used to go up to City Hall 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I'm serious, there was nothing uptown, zero. Look at it today. But the quality of life for the kids, I love kids, everybody knows that, because that's why I do what I do. And I even go to schools. I've been to Bon Air School. They said I was their hero, and I want to talk to the kids. I tell every child, when you grow up and you be successful, please give back to the community. Give to somebody. It makes your heart feel good. And that's what I do, and that's why that my heart feels good that I have helped this community quite a bit over the last 17 years.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, the second question.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
What project would you like to see the next mayor tackle in District 1?
Well, I think we pretty much tackled a lot of projects in the past. We've torn down homes that was, can you hear me?
Now let's just pause.
Can't hear me. Now can you hear me? Okay. But repeat the question to me, please.
What project would you like to see the next mayor tackle in District 1?
Well, the project I like to see the next mayor do is, we have done a lot of improvements in the North End as far as roads and streets and stuff like that. But I'd like to see us get back into some of these alleys and getting the alleys paved and making people clean their clean behind their homes up. Because that's a pet peeve of mine. If I see somebody, I even drive the alleys, if I see an alley that needs to be cleaned up, the first thing I do is call code enforcement. Let's get on them, let's get it cleaned up. But that's the project that I'd like to see the next mayor do, is take on, let's pave some more of these alleys, because it's been, I would say, 10, 12 years since we paved any alleys. And we need to clean up. I think once you get out there and make improvements, even in the back of somebody's homes, then they're going to step out and they're going to start cleaning their place up. And that's a big pet peeve of mine, and it always has been.
Thank you. Mr. Accord, same question. What quality of life project would you like to see the next mayor tackle in District 1?
Quality of life project. Well, I'm not sure about quality of life, but a project that needs to be tackled in District 1 and probably in a lot of districts, and nobody really talks about, is the infrastructure underneath the streets. You know, some of these city sewers and storm drains have been in there for as long as I can ever remember, and for that matter, for anybody that I've talked to can remember. I have one that's been in my street for 17 years it's been broke, and they just keep coming back and repairing it and repairing it. At some point, you know, that's all going to give one day. And when that does, you know, these costs are you know, extraordinary. And I understand why we haven't done that yet, because, you know, they're extraordinary costs to do that. But if a mayor doesn't decide to get some kind of a plan together to start tackling these projects under the ground, not just above the ground what you see, because, you know, it's going to be worse than you know, we can imagine one day. I mean, when we start having failing sewer systems and failing stormwaters, you know, and people's houses start flooding when we get 2 inches of rain, that could be a problem. Thanks.
May I say something?
A rebuttal, yes.
Yes, you know, that's the thing that I was in for 55 years, as everybody knows. But we have done a lot of improvements on the waterways. We've separated a lot of the stormwater from the sewer lines to keep them from backing up into people's homes. There is a few issues that needs to be addressed, but we have, in the last 15 years, 12 years, because we was mandated by the federal government to separate the stormwater from the sewers for this reason, so it wouldn't back up in people's homes. And we have done a lot of them, and we're going to continue to do more of them, hopefully.
Okay. All right, Marcus, third question. And well, Jason, you'll be first.
Gentlemen, first of all, thank you for your commitment to service, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Question I have, and I'll start with you, Jason. What is District 1's strongest asset, and what is your plan to continue to strengthen that asset?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
You know what? I believe that Bonaire School is probably the strongest asset in the District 1. You know, it's where everything starts for the young kids go there. It's when I went there, it was an elementary, middle school. It's an art school now. I'm not sure of the grade levels that go there. I honestly am not. But I would say that, you know, that's probably where we need to start to change some of the other things that's going on in our community. We got to start talking to these kids about some programs and you know, the drugs and you know, the things that come along with that. And so that's probably our most valuable asset, would be the school, because that's where it all starts. We can get to the younger kids there. We can start helping them understand the do's and don'ts. You know, when I went to school, there was all kinds of programs that talked, the DARE program and other programs that, you know, you could do. But I think it starts there. I think that's our strongest asset, because the youth is our future. So yes, I think that the school system, the Bonaire School, is our strongest asset in District 1.
Mike, same question.
Yes, and I got to agree with Jason. Like I said, I went to Bonaire School. I talked to the children. I went there I don't know how many times and talked to children. My 2 children come from Bonaire School, and I'm so proud of them, because my son he's over the engineers in 4 plants in China and 2 plants in the Philippines. He's over all those engineers, and he come right out of Bonaire School. So don't think it can't be done. But you gotta, it all begins in the home. And I tell the kids, I tell the parents, I sat with a bunch of parents like this one night and looked out at the parents and said, you know what, I may be your kids' hero, but you parents are my hero because you're sitting right there with your children. And I think that's what it's all about, is teaching your children right from wrong and giving them a good education, because they're not going to be as lucky as Mike was as far as making a living. And but I stress this all the time, and I think Bon Air School is a great school, but there's a lot of things up in the North End that's improved in the last 12 years, 10 years. But I am so proud to live there. I really am. And I've lived there for over 55 years in the North End of Kokomo. So.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We're ready for our next question. Don?
Mr. Wyatt, if re-elected, what resolution or ordinance is a top priority for you and why?
Well, there's a couple things that you know I've thought of and I have brought up before, and one of them is, why can't we get a golf cart ordinance and you know, put it pretty strict to where you stay in off the main roads. And I would like to see that happen, because there's a lot of people in the North End and all over the city that can't get out and walk or anything, I guess, and they can get out in a golf cart and you know, just take their time going through the city. And the second one is I don't know how this is going to be done, but I'd like to see a city court established again, because we at one time had a city court, and we need to try to put that back in, because if you get a fine for $100, we send, I think, about $5 or $7 or $5 to the state. I mean, we keep $5, send the rest to the state for the ticket. And this would actually pay for itself with 2 or 3 police officers that you could hire just to give tickets to these people that's out here breaking the law. And it would pay for itself. That's another thing that I would like to see happen. Whether we can make it happen, I don't know, but I think it'd be a good thing for Kokomo to have it.
Jason?
You know, this is the one that's kind of close to my heart. I would have to probably look into seeing why and change the ordinance that doesn't allow me to build a pole barn on my property. There's something in there, I'm not sure why I was not allowed, so I would probably look into something like that, because I think, you know, the snow load had something to do with the roof, and when I explained to him that, you know, that would be not a problem, I was going to use 2x6s and it was going to be 16 on center. There's no reason for no snow load issues. It was more of an aesthetic issue, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because my pole barn was going to look just like my house, so I'm not sure why they would have some kind of an ordinance against people building pole barns, you know, a pole structure. The floating floor, you know, maybe that was it. Maybe they wanted me to have a foundation. It's a cost-saving factor is why I would have built it that way. And I build things, so, you know, that was why I was looking into that. On the other note of that, I would probably, and I don't know if there's, you know, this might be out of my realm here, but I don't know why we're not doing 3 readings anymore in the city council chambers, but I would definitely want to do that, go back to 3 readings instead of just 2 on everything. So, I mean, that'd be what I would want to do.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Mr. Acord, has crime increased in District 1 over the last 2 years?
Has crime increased?
Yes.
Is that the question you're asking me?
Yes.
From my standpoint of an opinion, I think it has. But from the standpoints that you're probably going to give me, it probably hasn't. But here's my thing. If you live where I live and you see the things I see and you see the things that don't probably go on record, then you would say the crime has definitely went up. I totally agree that the crime has increased in District 1, yes.
People are applauding because crime's going up in District 1, Mr. Wyatt.
Crime has gone up in District 1?
I'm asking.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But, you know, no matter what you do, how much you fight it, you're going to have crime. But I think, personally myself, I'd like to see a few more officers, and I'd like to see them in that district. I'd like to see them all over the city. But you're not going to get rid of crime, but we need to get rid of those people that's breaking the law and put them where they need to be. But crime is, you know, it's all over the city, as you know. It's not only in District 1. It's in District 3, 4. It's everywhere. But I think we need to put on a few more officers and maybe patrol more and try to cut crime. Because that's going to cut crime if you put a few more officers on there. And I tell the people that if they see something, call the police. Call the police and get them out there and turn them in. That's the only way crime is going to go away. It's for the public to help.
That's 1 minute. So Jason, you wanted a rebuttal?
Yes, I would ask then, you know, I heard him say that we needed more officers on the street. Well, I would ask why we don't have them already. You know, why don't we have them already? I mean, if the money is there, Mike, it's been there for years, and I would ask why we don't have them already.
Let me say one thing here. We do not hire, we do not fire.
Didn't say that.
Okay. All right, you both had your rebuttals, so.
Well, wait a minute, I didn't finish.
Okay, Mike.
But we didn't hire, we don't fire. If they bring it forward to the city council, whether it's a Republican or Democrats, they will support putting more officers on the road. I know that to be a fact, and I would support it too, because we need a few more, that's for sure.
But the money's already there. So I'm not,
Okay.
I would
Jason,
ask why we're not asking
we're
questions
done.
of why we're not putting these officers on the streets.
We're done.
Why wouldn't we ask these questions as a city councilman?
We're done.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay. It's time now for your closing statements, and you each have 2 minutes, and we'll start with Mike.
Okay, so I'm going to finish what I just started. but yes, they come before us with a budget. We give them a budget for police, to fire, the ASME workers, and if we do not hire, we do not fire. So if they want to put more police officers on the road, the whole city council, whether Democrats or Republicans, they will support this, and I will too. But anyway, I'll get off that. But I just want to say that it's been an honor for me to sit there for 17 years on the city council, and I hope to continue it for 4 more years. And with your help and your votes, I will do that. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you. And also, I think I did mention my children, didn't I? I mentioned my children, how proud I was of them. And they all come from the north end of Kokomo, and so help me, they've done wonders. And I'm just honored to be sitting right here talking to you people, because you know as well as I do, I love this city and love the people of this city, no matter what. And I will do anything to help anybody. And that's just the way Mike's been all my life. We was taught to help people. People helped us. And we was taught to help people. For my mother and dad to raise 16 children. And my wife came from 13 children. And just, I never thought I'd ever be sitting here talking to you people about this 17 years later, because I was only supposed to go on there for 1 year and I was getting out of there. But I've been there 17 and I've been honored to sit there, and I hopefully, with the people's help, I can continue sitting there for another 4 years.
Thank you, Mike. Jason?
Thank you guys for coming out. The end of the show is probably going to be a lot better.
Yes.
A lot more informative. I had some things jotted down I was going to say, but you know what? That's just not me. I'm just going to tell you guys how it is. You know, as I sit here and I listen to this, you know, it's no secret that I don't have but limited knowledge of the city council. That's no secret. But you know what? As I watch, and he tells me he's been in there 17 years, I know the guys has been there since '94, and I look at the city and I think back to them times, and I think to myself, wow. You know, and this is where we are. We have had some great things go on, but to see the things that are going on now in my community and the things that are going on in other communities, not necessarily in the south side, but more in the north side, you know, west side, it scares me to see where we're going. And with that being said, you know, the reason I got involved in this is because it's a government by the people for the people. And by gosh, I am the people. And I want to be the guy that runs District 1 and listens to the people. I want to hear the voices. And I've been out walking the streets and listening to these folks. And they're not happy with the results that's going on in District 1. They're just not happy. The crime rate they think is outrageous. The drugs are just unbearable. I buried friends of my sons. I mean, friends of my sons. When you get to that point in your life, when you're burying these kids that you coach baseball, it gets a little emotional. Now, I say this. I'm not going to give you 4 more years, Mike. And I recommend to you guys right now today, give them all a pink slip.
So can we have applause for both of our candidates this evening? Thank you very much. Okay, if everybody could go ahead and take your seats again. It looks like we're ready to get started with District 4. And our candidates are Donnie Hayworth, Craig Jones, and Daniel Purvis. Welcome to the stage. And you each have 1-minute opening statement. And we'll go ahead and start with you, Donnie.
Okay. I want to thank everybody being in my neighborhood. I represent the 4th District, so I appreciate you being in my neighborhood. I'd like to say, my business, like I say, my family's been, you probably recognize me from the donut shop, Dan's Bakery. I've been in business, donut business for 45 years. It's a long time. We love it. We've been blessed in this community. I love this community. And, you know, and the thing about it is unique about being on the council, which I love dearly. My father was on there 11 years. In 2010, when he passed away, I took his spot. I've been on 9 years, 20 years period in District 4. And I love it. I love being on the council. Another thing I want to say, solidarity to the union. And I want to appreciate their CAP Council endorsement. That means a lot to me.
Okay, thank you. Craig?
Well, I'm Greg Jones. I'm going to let you know who I am. I'm a career Air Force veteran. I spent 6 years in law enforcement. I spent the last 3 working in senior services. I have 4 children. My youngest is a kindergartner. My oldest is a senior. They all go to Kokomo schools. I've been married for nearly 20 years to the same wonderful woman that I met while I was in the military. And coming from a military home, I never had one until I stepped foot in Kokomo. The people made me feel welcome, and I feel the need to return that favor and show them that I appreciate them, and I intend to give the same service to them that I give to my other 3 careers in my life.
Thank you very much, Craig. Daniel?
I would like to thank you all for coming. My name is Daniel. I'm 21 years old. I grew up in Kokomo. I went to Kokomo High School. I know I'm a lot younger than these gentlemen, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's a lot of things we can do better. We've done a lot of good things in the last couple of years, but we could do better, and I think I'm the person that could do that. I would personally like to thank you for your service. That's on a side note, though.
Okay, thank you very much. You will have the questions. You will have 1 minute to answer the questions. I will allow, if you want to rebuttal the answer of one of your opponents, I will allow you like a 30-second rebuttal. And Sandy, do you want to show them the 30-second and the stop so you know what those look like? And she will hold those up when you have 30 seconds left in your answer or when you need to stop. Did my mic just die? Okay. And I also want to give you this. This is the order that we're going to do for the questions that you will answer them. I will also prompt you on those. So you'll need to share that. See the first question. Mm-hmm. Craig, you'll go first.
Greg. G-R-E-G.
Yes. Okay, we are ready for our first question. And Marcus, you didn't get to ask a question before, so we'll start with you.
Good luck, gentlemen. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir.
The last group, I asked them what the strongest asset was in their district. I'm going to kind of flip it. What is the District 4's most prevalent and immediate challenge And what is your plan to address that challenge?
Well, to be honest, considering I work in senior care, I'm driving all day, it's the roads. The roads have always been a problem, our infrastructure, and then we have problems with shrinking of the roads. With the roads being shrunk the way they are, their intended purpose is to slow traffic down, make it safer. However, if you look at any of the curbs, you see all the tire marks because they're too narrow. I've seen vehicles, emergency vehicles and buses stopped because of common traffic such as postal trucks. We've got cars that stop because they need to get in and out, and it just slows our flow. We need to get at this, we need to make the roads where they're usable, not to sit there and just cover the problem.
Okay, that's the first part of the question. The second part is exactly what do you do to fix it?
Well, the biggest thing to do is we need to make sure that we have companies out there that are doing the job consistently, not jumping to 2, 3, 4 projects at a time. And one of the best ways is to hire from the local community. We need to offer ways for us to hire local contractors, even though we're supposed to hire the lowest bidder. There are ways to get that done.
Mr. Hayworth?
What was the question?
The District 4's biggest challenge.
Biggest challenge in
how to
District
fix it.
4. Oh, I'd say, like I say, my main goal was street lights. My main issue is the street lighting, the alleys, the infrastructure, everything else is, I think, it's pretty solid. If you want to know the truth, I think I got one of the best looking districts around.
Mr. Purvis?
I'll have to echo what these two gentlemen said, and it's just the infrastructure. I've lived in District 4 my whole life, and I can tell you that it's growing up on a dead-end street and around a bunch of cracked roads and potholes and things like that. I can tell you that there is a problem there, and we need to address it. I think we need to take our time with it instead of just getting it done as quickly as possible. Take our time with it and make sure that it's done right and done quality.
Okay, thank you. Second question, Don?
Who do I address it to?
You would start with Daniel.
Daniel. The Common Council does not hire or fire city employees, but it can affect staffing levels through the budget. How do you feel about city staffing levels presently within the realm of public safety, and would you support increasing police and fire department funding?
Yes, I do. There is a problem with our low policing numbers. I can attest to that. I'm not going to get into it as big a detail because it's a long story. I was a victim of a crime a couple of years ago, and I can tell you that we need to settle this, and I think increasing the budget while also managing it and not allowing it to go too big is something we need to do. We need to increase police and fire and general public safety officials, as well as manage the budget in a way that keeps it balanced.
Okay, the next person is Greg.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The Common Council does not hire or fire city employees, but it can affect staffing levels through the budget. How do you feel about city staffing levels presently within the realm of public safety, and would you support increasing police and/or fire department funding?
If necessary, I would support increasing fire and police funding, because at our current rate of attrition through the fire department, we lose 2 to 3 per year, and every battalion needs more firemen. Our own police department is running at less than 80 officers, and the Department of Justice recommends that we have a minimum of 105 for a city our size. So we are running at a lower than necessary levels. We need to take drastic steps to make this happen, and I believe that the council is sitting out there somewhere, and we have a mayor candidate who's willing to make this happen, and the council is willing to make sure he has the money that he needs to make it happen.
Thank you, Greg. Donnie?
I think the staffing level, as far as budgets, we always had, since I've been on 9 years, we always had a balanced budget. And I never cut no one's budget. So if they needed, like say everything, like fire, police, transportation, Well, traffic, I never cut anybody's budget.
Okay, thank
But
you.
if you give that money in the budget to police or fire and it's not used for that, do you ever criticize that decision, or are you fine with the level?
Well, like I say, I never hired or fired anybody in 9 years I've been on.
Okay,
Would either of you and other two complain if they didn't use the money for police or fire that was budgeted?
If it's budgeted, I'm looking probably 10 policemen, 5 firemen in 2020. And the reason I say that, you hire 5 in January police, you hire 5 in September. It takes a year to train a policeman. And on fire department, you hire 5. It takes 7 or 8 months for a fireman to get on the truck. And another thing I would do is, I would like to see policemen get their own car. That's always been part of my agenda. I always like to see a cop get their car, put it in the neighborhood. It helps deter crime, and I just think it's better for every cop to have a car.
Greg, you want to answer that?
Can you repeat it again? I lost it in what Donnie was saying.
Many times, I believe in the budget, there's money designated for police or fire, and it's maybe used for other projects. If you were elected to the council, would you complain vigorously about that, or just let it go as it is now?
Well, as most of us know, the heads of the departments come and talk to the city council and let them know what they would like, and they hash out what they want for a budget. If they don't use it, that's money that we could roll over to the next year, thereby reducing the amount that the people have to put into it for the following year. That helps every one of us to reduce our taxes. It is a possibility in that. But we need to make sure the police and the firemen have the training items they need. So if that money isn't spent on police, then what about training items? Simulators. Items to make sure they get home safe to their families.
Daniel?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
It's a sort of,
Daniel, if money was designated for the fire department or the police department and it wasn't used for that, would you be vocal about that and try to insist that it was used for that?
Yes, I would, because we have to realize at some point this is not a video game. These are these people's money. These people are hardworking people to provide for their family, and we're using their money. So if it's not going to be used for what it was intended for, then we can either roll it over to the next year or save it or use it to help our police and firefighters. We want to, as well as what I was saying earlier, we need to protect our police and firemen and women, because they are very crucial to the protection of the city, and they're people too. We need to help them. We need to protect them when they're out doing their jobs. So I would be vocal about a misuse of money or a lack of use of money, because that's these people's money.
okay, are we ready to move on? Jeff, and the first person to answer your question will be Donnie.
Okay. Mr. Hayworth.
Yes.
City Council has been criticized over the years for not doing a whole lot. And the two things that we can come up with that were controversial were the LGBT legislation and protections that were passed, and the citywide smoking ban that was passed in conjunction with the countywide smoking ban. Could you remind everyone how you voted on those two issues, and do you believe that those pieces of legislation have improved the community?
Well, I voted aye and no. Aye on LGBT. That ordinance basically I always thought was it's like bullying. You know how bullies go around schools and make fun of people and kids, and their part of that was commerce. to bring people here where we're inclusive community. And on the smoking, I voted no, because I always thought the businessman should be able to do what they want, instead of me telling them how to run their business.
Do you think that passage of both of those ordinances has improved the community or hurt the community?
I think it's improved it.
Mr. Jones, same question.
Well, as for the smoking ban, I agree with Donnie that it should be up to the business owner. However, when 85% of the population does not smoke, and a large majority of those won't patronize businesses that allow it, every one of those business owners have seen an increase in their business by that one action. So I do support the idea of the smoking ban, just because I see the economic benefits in it. As for the LGBT, everyone has the right to live their life as they see fit. No one has any right to tell you how to live your life as long as you're not harming anyone. So the passage of the ordinance itself, that I didn't pass it, I didn't vote on it. It's here, and we're going to treat everyone with respect, the way we should, the way a lot of us have been taught.
Your turn, Mr. Purvis.
As far as the smoking ban, I was not aware of any of the economic impacts. I do believe that people are smart enough to be able to govern themselves to an extent. I don't think the government should have to step in on every little issue. I have spoken to several people in the media, and I've said that I would look at the smoking ban. If businesses would like to ban smoking, I think that should be their prerogative. It should not be the government's call. So I think if businesses were, like if there was a bar that said, hey, I don't want you smoking in here, then that's their business. There shouldn't be a government rule on that. And as far as the LGBT thing, we shouldn't have to have a law that says that you should treat people with respect and fairness. That's common sense. Don't be a jerk. We shouldn't have to have a government law that says, don't be a jerk to this person because they live a life that's different from yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we have time for one more question. Marcus?
Mr. Jones, I think I'm back to you.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of businesses smoking or non-smoking, what is your plan to develop District 4's business base as far as generating new business, if you have one, or if you don't believe District 4 is in need of any economic development?
I believe every district has room for growth. Every district feeds to itself, and it feeds to the community around it. The biggest thing is to ensure that the availability is there and the support and infrastructure. So we mentioned roads because that's a major thing. We also mentioned the fact of education. Do we have the education to support new businesses coming in? And where's the best place to develop those businesses? We may not, as a point in the middle of town like we are, because we are south central of it, have space to actually develop a large business. But we can develop supportive businesses. For any larger business, we may develop, say, somewhere over by 2B Pike. We can support those businesses with their own growth. And the biggest thing is to encourage people to start their own businesses, see where the need is, and ask them, how can we help you?
Mr. Purvis.
Yes, I think we are, as he said, I think we can improve. You know, we can't just sit back and say, oh, we have a decent business size in District 4 and just rest on our laurels. That's not a good thing to do. We can always improve. There are things we could be doing, and I think we should make it more of a positive thing to start a business, help people out that are starting businesses, and encourage other businesses from, say, out of town or out of state to come and invest in Kokomo.
Okay, thank you. That will be it for our questions.
One moment, Mr. Hayworth.
Okay.
District 4 has probably had more private investment than any district in this city. We got Humane Society. We got the Markland Mall invested $11 million. We got a grocery store. We got trails. We got Chrysler, the biggest employer. So my District 4 had more private investment than any district in Kokomo. I'm proud of that.
Okay, thank you very much. And you each have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and Daniel, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, I would first of all like to thank all of you for coming. This is a very important thing that we have a community discussion about these issues. I'm excited for the future, regardless of whoever wins the election. I think we have some really good candidates on the ballots this November, and I think it's going to be a fun time, and I think we're going to have a good time in the next 4 years. We have a lot of room to improve, and I think we have some people that are willing to do that. And with your guys' help, I think we can make Kokomo a better place. Thank you.
Okay, Donnie.
I want to thank everybody coming tonight, being in my neighborhood. District 4, like I say, are we better off, when I've been in 9 years, are we better off today than we was 9 years? I say yes. Infrastructure's in better shape, more private investment, clean itself, well-established community in District 4. And like I say, we like this so much, I've been in District 4 my whole life. And when our family started a business on the corner of Union and Hoffer, been there 45 years, so, and I still got siblings in the 4th District. I love this city, I'm passionate. We're in a constituent service. What I mean by that is, I probably get 2 or 3 calls a week on people's problems, trash, cars, limbs, brush, you name it. And I'd say one thing, and people that know me out there, I take that seriously. And I do my very best to take care of the citizens of the 4th District, and they know that. So thank you for coming tonight, and God bless us.
Okay, thank you. Can we have an applause for our candidate?
Excuse me. You still haven't got me yet.
Greg, did you want
Yeah.
I'm really good at doing that, aren't I? Okay. Greg, go
Well, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Greater Kokomo Chamber of Commerce, Kokomo Tribune, Kokomo Perspective for having me here. I'd like to thank my wife and children for their support in doing this, because I couldn't do it without them. And also, I'd like to remind you that I've spent my entire life service either to my country, my community, my state, my friends, my family, and I intend to do that for our city. I don't back down. I will stand for what's right. You need me, call me. I will come as soon as I can to be there for you. Any of these people out here who know me know that. I will continue to support this city no matter what happens. And please get out and vote. If nothing else, vote. That's what matters most.
Okay, thank you. Now applause. Okay, we'll just take a few minutes for the change. Okay, it looks like our mayoral candidates are ready.
The what?
So if everybody would please go back to their seats. And this session is going to be 90 minutes. And we are taking questions from the audience. Are there cards for people? Sandy, are there cards? Okay, so the questions from the audience should already have been submitted. And we are not going to have opening statements. We're going to go right into the questions. And Tyler is going to answer the first question first. And they have 2 minutes to answer the questions. So, Don, I believe you're next. No, the committee decided not to have opening statements on this one, because the questions have 2 minutes.
Tyler, Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
Your slogan says, expect more, get more, I believe, something
Close.
Similar to that.
Expect and elect, but yes, close.
Expect and elect, I'm sorry. All right, now, are we expect more from the present administration, expect more than your opponent, and exactly what is we should expect?
Expect more from me. I mean, I expect more from your city administration. I mean, I believe that there are a lot of areas that have needed attention. I mean, we've touched on infrastructure, public safety. I mean, there's a whole gamut of areas that many people, not just myself and those that are supporting me, feel that they need more from their administration, from their mayor, from their city council, what they are expecting from their police, from their fire, from their city, are not due to any of the shortfalls or the efforts or lack thereof of those respective departments. It's the leadership. And so as we continue to walk the neighborhoods and knock on doors and hear folks, there's a concern. There's concern with their safety. There's concern with the economy. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs, and I think folks are again looking for more from their administration, and I feel I have that to give. And what I am able to do is, again, what everybody should expect from a mayor.
Abby, I think your slogan is moving Kokomo together, moving Kokomo forward together.
Donnie, I'm not sure you have a good handle on what the slogans of this are.
It's similar. Okay. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, so I think it's one Kokomo in our city. I believe in this community. I believe in our ability to come together and move the city forward because I've seen us do it time and time again. So from leading city, county, school, community, business partners in recovery efforts for a historic flood or 2 tornadoes, or coming together to create a shared goal to get our kids ready for kindergarten. I know we are capable of doing great things when we work hand in hand. So I believe that together we can build a team that takes Kokomo to the next level. I was born in Kokomo but grew up in the county next door, but have chosen with my husband Nate to raise our 2 children, Matilda and Jack, here because of what the potential of this community is, because of the potential that we see. So I am a leader with a proven track record and proven results of bringing people together.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Second question, Jeff. And Abby, you will answer first.
Thank you.
Ms. Smith, housing has been a controversial issue of late, maybe the last couple of years. How should the city approach housing? Do you think that Kokomo has enough housing? Where would we build housing if more is needed? Would Kokomo benefit to continue its city's urban infill program? I know it's a lot.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So no, we don't have enough housing. We see that across all markets. You know, in particular, I have experience working with people with limited incomes. So we really, in particular, need affordable housing in the sector above the poverty level, but below a survival rate. We've got about 25% of our adults working, but not making enough money to last them the end of the month. So, and they're not eligible for any kind of housing subsidies. So I know that we need housing in that market. I also believe in the infill program. I think it's a great program, especially when we look at blight elimination. We can't just tear everything down, leave empty lots, or just go with apartment buildings, right? We need to have a nice mix of housing available for people in the community. I also think that we, in addition to economic development in general and developing the Southern 931 corridor, we really have a unique opportunity and an asset with the southern side of our city. Not to exclude the north by any means, but and continuing to tie ourselves in a two-way street on 931 to be seen as part of Indy Metro at just a quick 60 minutes from my door. My husband works from home and travels, so from our door to the airport is 60 minutes. So figuring out how we attract more residents to that south side, I think would be advantageous.
Mr. Moore, what is your ideas on housing? Do we have enough? And if we don't, what do you think we should be doing?
Well, I think of a lot of what the city is currently doing, has been successful. Ms. Smith touched on a number of the shortfalls and concerns with housing and affordable housing in Kokomo. I am in support of the city's infill program to reduce blight elimination. Obviously, being involved in county government, we see how vacant properties and unused properties does affect the tax base. And so getting those blighted properties or available areas to be utilized and to get back on the tax rolls is very important, not only for those areas, but also, again, for available tax revenues. The areas that I feel that we need to look at, I mean, obviously where a lot of the development is currently going on the south end, but again, as Ms. Smith touched on, there are the low to moderate income areas in the north end that I think with those structures that are going up, we need to be more diligent on what type of structures are going and the what their intended uses are and the folks that we're trying to market to bring. Thank you.
Abby, you would like to rebuttal?
Just to clarify, I did not say that the north end is low to moderate housing. I do think we have low to moderate housing all over the city, and we need increased access to that all over the city. So I definitely do not restrict that to one neighborhood, and I think we need development all over.
Okay, the next question. Marcus and Tyler will answer first.
Mr. Moore, I do have a question, I promise, but before I want to thank both of you for your professionalism and positivity throughout this race thus far. Both of those characteristics have exemplified the leadership that Kokomo needs, and good luck to the both of you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, tell me what the first 30 days look like.
Holy cow, what the first 30 days look like. Well, we're going to be busy. I think first we assemble the team. I mean, we get the proper leaders in place in each of the city departments, the police and fire, and have a major sit down to see what areas need addressed first. Everybody's pretty much aware what the priorities are, but I think that first 30 days is going to be busy finding ways to get officers back on more officers back on the street, to take a look at the challenged areas, infrastructure-wise. Again, we talked about streets and roads, but I think first and foremost, we run a financial analysis. I'm not saying an audit, not an audit looking for any discrepancies and such, but doing a very thorough financial analysis to see where there are areas of opportunity within the existing budget, within the existing line items and such, to be able to fund whatever plan is orchestrated and put in place, so that we're not just blindly throwing out a plan without some type of forethought and funding mechanism. So it's going to be a busy time.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Well, I have a couple of things to address the question first, and then I have a rebuttal, I think. First, that's the beginning of a lot of things, right? It's 30 days, so let's get real about how much we can get done in 30 days. But the first three priorities, I think, is really what the meat of the question. The first is, look, launch immediately into making our public safety personnel packages attractive and reworking those to make sure that we are fully staffed. So we're becoming fully staffed. The retirement numbers are very real, and we continue to lose people just because of age. So that's workforce-wide, but 50% of our workforce will be eligible to retire in the next 2 to 3 years. So it is an immediate concern. The second piece is related again to jobs. So I'm very committed to job training programs for adults. As I said, 50% of our workforce is eligible to retire in the next 2 to 3 years, and so that is a priority for me. Figuring out how we commission a work-based learning task force to come around adults as they stabilize to get the training that they need to get the one job that pays the bills. And then the third piece is just about basic infrastructure. So streets immediately, just get an assessment of where we are in repairs and resurfacing and where do we need to focus. I do want to question for clarity. Commissioner Moore has often called for an independent audit of city finances, so I'm looking for clarity as to whether or not you're still calling for that.
I think I mentioned that I would look at it or conduct a financial analysis, if we want to call it an audit analysis. I was trying to stay or keep the investigation, if you will, in a positive light by calling it an analysis, not to, because often audits imply that there's the implication that I feel that there's been wrongdoing or inappropriate use of certain funds, and I want to get away from that because there are very many opportunities within the budget to maximize what we have. I mean, so I guess, however you want to call it, an audit or an analysis, I still want, it's to look in what we need to have. And then do I get, then I have the rebuttal?
Yes.
So, okay. I mean, a lot of looking at the first 30 days, I believe you mentioned yourself that we have to be realistic on what we can accomplish, and so with everything that is what I feel needs addressed within the city departments themselves. I mean, 30 days is 30 days, but you touched on workforce development, and training and everything else. I mean, so is your plan to get folks together within that 30 days and begin addressing those? And,
yes.
And I guess in doing so, you feel that the current city administration is doing exactly what they need to do, and
not what I said. Beginning to staff. Clarification. Yeah. No, I think what I would begin doing in the first 30 days is staffing appropriately and finding the right people to staff a Smith administration priorities.
Okay. All right, we're ready for our next question. And Donna, you ask the question, and Abby, you answer first.
Okay.
It appears at this point, development of the Hotel Conference Center downtown will continue well on into the next administration. How do you intend to handle the continuing development, and once completed, how can the city maximize it as an asset?
Yes, so a lot of work has been done by a lot of people for many years to try to make sure that that development goes forward, and it absolutely is an asset to the city. Being right downtown, accessible to restaurants and the stadium and trails, and in the heart of the city, especially connected to a conference center, housing our automotive heritage museum, it can become a central focus of commerce for the city. So it would remain a priority of mine, continue working with everyone involved, including developers, to ensure that that is successful and that project continues.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, I think your assumption is correct that it will work its way well into the next administration. Being familiar in real estate commercial transactions in the title industry and working with lenders and realtors and developers and such, I'm aware of how long processes like this take on projects this large. There are a lot of moving parts and such, and we've already been witness to that. I will plan on continuing to work closely with the Alliance. Obviously, we have a great resource in Charlie Sparks that's been spearheading that effort and leading that and bringing the parties together. But I do feel it will be an asset to the community. As commissioner, we've been supportive of the project from the county government side from day one. We were one of the first to commit to the project because obviously a project of this magnitude, just like the YMCA was downtown, is going to take a public-private partnership, and we saw how successful the YMCA project was with public and private coming together, continuing to work together. My relationship with county government will help assure that the county remains on board as a partner in that. But again, I think having the real estate and title experience that I have, I'll help be a huge player in the development and seeing that project come to fruition.
Do you know where the project stands right now, either one of you?
I do not. No, as I understand it, and again, just from what limited knowledge we see or read from the papers, that there were environmental issues clearing up. I think there were talks that there was still securing financing and such. And about one issue surrounding that I would love to see be put to rest is the settlement with the Newtons. I think we as a city owe them the respect that they need and deserve in being asked to leave.
Abby, do you know any more about the status of the project now?
I think we remain hopeful that things will work, but I do think it will be something that carries into the next administration.
Okay, are we ready for our next question then? Jeff and Tyler, you go first.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, I know you have and Ms. Smith have a lot of priorities that you've shared with people over the last few months. A lot of those include hiring staff, additional staff. Do you believe it's appropriate to use economic development income tax money to fund perhaps city employee salaries?
Not if necessary. I know that in the state legislature has allowed economic development income tax to be used for any lawful purpose, which many municipalities have taken advantage of that in order to fund budget shortfalls, and a lot of those do come in the way of salaries. It's a great tool to use in order to keep the tax rates down, to minimize the amount of tax that's expected from the citizens. But for as long as I've been commissioner, it's been my position and belief that economic development income tax should be used first and foremost for that, for economic development. And there's obviously a great need for that. I know infrastructure doesn't seem like economic development, but I think as Mr. Jones and some of the others have mentioned before, if you can't drive and get to the businesses that want to invest, if you don't have the proper, streets, water, utilities and such to these areas, then they can't invest. I mean, so long answer short, yes, it's a proper use, and I would be supportive of that if the need be, but mainly as a last resort.
Ms. Smith, same question. Do you believe that it's appropriate
I believe that
use economic development income tax money to fund salaries?
So I think what's allowed and what's appropriate are two different things. Those taxes are collected in good faith, that they'll be spent in a way that develops the local economy. Infrastructure could be one of those things. Many things could be that, because it's some of our most flexible funds that we have. However, providing funding for a shortfall in a budget just for the simple fact that it's a shortfall in a budget, in my opinion, is not an appropriate use of it, even if it is allowed. So that's the answer.
Okay, our next question is Marcus, and Abby, you will go first.
Ms. Smith, some very smart people at the Alliance Board gave me this question, so I apologize if I really screw it up, okay? How can we promote diversity and inclusion in our community? Some cities have opened their doors to immigrant and refugee populations to drive population growth. What is your vision for growing the population of this community if you indeed think the population needs to be grown?
Well, that is an interesting question. It seems like it's two different questions. Promoting and practicing diversity and inclusion is not something that you would hold only for a refugee population. So there are many ways to encourage, not only within a city administration, but to promote economic development with women and minority-owned businesses, revolving loan funds, all kinds of things we can do for business owners to promote economic development and diversity and inclusion in our community. Specifically, with refugee populations, I'd like to think that Kokomo is a place that opens her doors to people needing refuge, right? And that we are a community that welcomes anyone and includes them and makes them a part of this community. I think that is a harder thing to do than just giving platitudes, right? I mean, you have to work really hard to make sure that you provide access and resources and housing options, and that doesn't necessarily mean we give those things, but we reach out to people and connect them with resources available and in the neighborhoods that we have. So back to diversity and inclusion, it is a long-held and closely held value of mine. I do believe strongly that more perspectives at a table is a good thing, and that we need to strive to practice inclusion at every step of the way.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
I've had the pleasure and honor to be a member of the Early Risers Rotary Club, and early on we had a member, those of you that are familiar with IUK, and some of his professors are probably familiar with Dr. Herb Miller. And one of the things that Dr. Miller often said, and is very true, is all roads lead to Kokomo. I mean, that's evident. I mean, if you look around, our community is very diverse. We do have all kinds of folks from different walks of life. That's just to put in a quick plug for the Republican ticket. I mean, we've got a great diverse group of Republicans running this year as well. But to grow or to encourage diversity and inclusion and such, we need to lead by example. I think there's part of the reason why that question has been posed to us as candidates, I think, is for that. They expect more from the administration in paving the way and leading by example by looking for ways to increase and improve the diversity within each of the departments, on the police force, in the fire department. It's evident that minorities, are not well represented within those departments, and we've had that discussion with other community leaders. And so I think in order to do that, we as an administration need to lead by example.
Abby?
Is that something that's been done at the county level?
It's been a struggle with the county level as well. Yes, I mean that's why I think the community. I'm not excluding myself, and you're right. I mean it has been evident, in county government as well. I mean, so recruitment-wise, I mean it's not anything that I think is unique to one or the other. We need to continue to find ways, to work together to achieve that.
Okay, Don, our next question, and Tyler, you will answer first.
With two qualified candidates, sometimes it comes down to philosophies or leadership or whatever you make your final choice on. What made you become a Republican, and in turn, what made you become a Democrat?
What made me become a Republican? Well, fortunately, I was in middle school and high school during the Reagan years, and I think I was enamored with the leader that Ronald Reagan was, and to see. Obviously, at one point he was Democrat and then became Republican, but I think his leadership style and the way he was able to bring folks together, a lot of it even with humor. I mean, those that know me know that I put the fun in dysfunction a lot of times. So, I mean, there are times throughout history that President Reagan often used humor to make a point, to bring folks together. But I think just the conservative nature of the Republican Party, growing up in a small business that family owned, and knowing the benefits of hard work and working to make that business thrive is something that is part of the Republican ideals, and so that's why I am.
Abby?
So, my dad is in the audience tonight. Where are you, Dad? I saw you come in. Hi. So my dad is a conservative and a Republican, and so when people ask, and sometimes him, how did you become a Democrat? I say, well, it's because you took me to church every Sunday, Dad. So I think what makes you a Democrat is not being afraid of differences. What makes me a Democrat is not being afraid of differences, not being afraid of hard work, feeling like you are called to fight for your fellow humankind, and a closely held belief that we are better and bigger and stronger when we build a longer table and invite more people to sit at it with us.
Okay, next question, Jeff. We'll start with Abby.
Okay. Ms. Smith, this is a question from the audience. I think it's really good. Will you keep the city trolley, and will it stay free?
Yes and yes. In the work that I do in social services, it is very, very clear that the trolley is a vital service to this community. I often hear we need, more hours, more weekends. How can we get more lines? And I think certainly our ridership has outperformed all projections and just really demonstrates the need. I wish that we had it in a larger area. I think that it's a disservice to people living in our county that we don't have public transportation that connects them with vital services. So anything that I can do to partner with county government to make sure that people are connected to the things that they need, I will do.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, I too believe that the trolleys are a valuable asset and resource for many in this community. I agree that we need to find the possibility of increasing the coverage area to reach those parts, and because as Ms. Smith mentioned earlier, you know, those that are low to moderate income are not designated or not specified in one particular area, and so the current coverage area does provide us challenges. Will it remain free? Of course. I know when it was first initiated that there were concerns because the main funding source for it is through the coordinating council or through the MPO funds, and so because those dollars are tied to different projects and such, there was the concern as to whether or not funding would remain. There was the talk about putting either a token service or credit card, some type of payment on there, and the group had opted against that because of its availability and need for those. So yes, as long as the funding source that has supported it through the years remains, then obviously we will make sure that it remains free to its riders.
So maybe.
Right.
A large part of the funding source for that has been the city, and leveraging some of the federal funds. The key to keeping those has been to keep it free. So if it's not free, then we don't get that money. So we have to keep it free.
Marcus, next question.
And that was a great question, and that's why I put it in front of me, but you swiped it anyway. All right, you are, all right. Prioritize this, and I think this is for Mr. Moore, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I know that both of you are going to want to say both, but I want you to prioritize quality of place, promotion of jobs.
Promotion of jobs, quality in place. I mean, the efforts that the current administration has put in place to ensure and create a quality of place has done. I mean, it has been outstanding. I mean, we've got the Cocoa Go Bites downtown. We've got the trails. We've got the new YMCA. So everything that the current administration and the Alliance and the community and public and private partnerships has done has assured that quality of place. And with the increase in housing opportunities, and we've brought folks here, it's now time to give those folks something to do. At the same time, bringing quality jobs will continue to bring quality people to enjoy the quality of place that's been established. So at this point in time, I believe the emphasis now needs to be on promotion of jobs.
You're not going to like me for this, but I respectfully don't accept the premise of the question. So we have jobs now, and many jobs are ready to open in the next 2 to 3 years with retirement. So we do have good jobs available now. People are struggling to hire. Any of you who hire people know how tight that market is. So we do have those now. Connecting people more closely with the places that are hiring. We just covered transportation being an issue. So people who need jobs, a lot of times they're struggling. So they don't have, they have a lot of barriers. Barriers, affordable childcare, the barriers, transportation, and the barrier that I see, the biggest one is the job training. So I don't think that we have to choose, because I think we have too many or conversations. It's a false choice, and I think when we have leaders that choose one or the other, we are not providing true leadership and vision for the community.
Okay, next question, Don.
Again, in trying to separate two quality candidates, sometimes it may come down to leadership. Whose turn is it?
It's Abby's turn.
Can you tell us how you've demonstrated leadership yourself, not with anyone else, but yourself, and how it pertains to the job you're running for?
So I think it depends on your view of leadership. I have a running joke with a friend about being called a facilitator. We need you to stop facilitating, Abby. We need you to start leading. In my opinion, facilitating means to make things easier, to make things get done. And so in my opinion, that is leadership. Pretending that one person can do things alone is not true. And you don't get the full power of the community if you're not able to harness that. So I can tell you, I've been working as a chief executive for the last 9 years. So not only am I the person who stands in front of everyone and is accountable for the actions of myself, my staff, the board, and the organization, but I also do manage staff, simultaneously working with a board of directors, and in this case it would be a city council, all to move things forward. So that takes a different skill set. It may not be what a leader traditionally looks like, but it is it's servant leadership. It is trying to harness the abilities of everyone, getting them facing the same direction, aligning toward a common goal.
Tyler.
Being part of a small business, I know it's family owned and operated, and my name is on it, but I'm still heir to the throne, right, Dan? Got the sign it there. But within that business are different aspects, and I have led the escrow or closing side of that to continue to keep the business successful. My efforts both here in Kokomo with our business as well as prior when I was working with another title company up in the South Bend and Elkhart area. In doing so, garnished the respect among my peers within the industry. I was selected to be president of the association for a year. Also, I mentioned earlier being part of the Early Risers Rotary Club. I was asked to be president of that club for a term, with the Home Builders Association being part of the leadership there. So consistently being asked and looked to and trusted in leadership positions, both in my industry and within the community as commissioner, again being elected to a third term. I believe the trust and respect that folks have in me has demonstrated my ability to lead in all aspects.
Donnie, you asked, or you said you were trying to find something distinguishable between two quality candidates.
I did.
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but Commissioner Moore just from the stage asked his dad if he was the heir to the throne. This, being the mayor, is not something that's handed to you. It's something that you work really hard for, and you aren't afraid to stand up and say what you believe in.
Could we please not have booing tonight? Thank you.
Yeah. Guys, you know, it's fine, and I know that was the rebuttal to mine, and I probably don't have a rebuttal unless I'm given that by the moderator in the panel.
You may have
so.
a rebuttal.
I respect my father Nope, stop. And you guys know that. Those of you that know me know that. A leader, in my opinion, demonstrates humility and respect for those who come before them. I may not always agree with Greg Goodnight. I may not like the things that he does or has treated me, has treated others, but I still have the respect for the man that his willingness to step forward and serve in the capacity as mayor. Is he handing it over? No, but I am his successor, and so I guess I'm heir to the throne of Kokomo.
Okay, let's move on. The next question, Jeff and Tyler, you go first.
Oh, boy. Okay, tax increment financing. Last few years, the city has been using TIF districts in its developments. It has kept some funding from the school district, from county government, from township government. Where do you stand on the use of tax incremental financing, Mr. Moore?
TIF districts are a great tool and resource to use for investment, to spark investment, and to encourage investment. As you mentioned, the shortfalls that, well, not shortfalls, but the lack of the benefit that other municipalities have in those situations is unfortunate. I mean, yes, the tax rate is capped at the levels that those municipalities are receiving to begin with, and so anything above then goes to that area. But as we've discovered, there's actually two different classifications for TIF districts, one being an allocation district, which means even though the TIF district is identified, if you have more than one allocation district, if you've got a TIF allocation here and a TIF allocation here, as long as they're classified as such, the revenues from this allocation can be utilized to other TIF districts that are, again, classified as an allocation. And so even within established TIF districts, those areas can still not be fully utilized or experience the benefit of the tool. But I feel that because it does affect the other municipalities, the relationship that I have within county government, with recycling district, those other entities that do feel the impact, there needs to be a greater dialogue with those other entities before committing to a particular district.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, same question. Where do you stand on TIF districts, the utilization of TIF financing to finance projects?
I think it's an effective tool to spark development within a certain area of that has a taxing authority, right? I think the key is working together with entities that affects within the district to ensure that we're spending it in the most strategic way possible. So I do think it's all about relationships, making sure everyone affected understands and works together to drive development strategically.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Marcus, and then Abby, you answer first.
I'm going to put the Alliance hat away for a second and ask a question from a deputy prosecutor perspective. The police force in this city is working their tail off. Mm-hmm. I know this because the jail is full. I know this because they're shipping people to Miami County. What is the problem? And is just an increase in the police force going to solve it? Is it a Kokomo problem? Is there infiltration outside of Kokomo that's contributing to this problem? And what are you going to do to assist even an increased police force in solving this problem and making the streets safer?
So that's a hard one to unpack, right? We've just had some very scary and shootings, right, and deaths. And I think that when those things happen, we get our emotions mixed up with cooler heads prevailing. So the reality is crime is an issue. It's always an issue. It's something we always need to be dealing with and never minimize. And I think people feeling safe in their neighborhoods is a priority. So so you're asking about crime in general, right? I mean, how are we going to reduce crime? I think a couple of things can be done. I recently put out a statement, and I have detailed plans in my platform. So first, we do need to hire more officers. They are working at a max. They're burnout, and they're spending a lot of their time in response to calls for service. And so when you do that consistently, you are in a mindset of reaction, and it's hard to get back into community policing or making connections within your community. So ensuring that we are properly staffed, which in my opinion needs to be between 100 and 102 officers, which is a lot or a big increase, and it is it's not going to happen overnight, but I do think we need to strive to get there. I also think we need to augment the training for them to ensure that they're prepared for any situation that they come upon. Trauma training, mental health training, technical training, leadership training. Do you have a stop? That's been 2 minutes? Okay, that's fine. And bias training. So ensuring that not only do we have enough, but they have the right skills, in addition to many other things.
And this is a sexy topic, right? So we're going to give you I'm going to give you a little bit more time. We talked about how we're going to, the police force again, but what, in your mind, can the community do to assist our police force in reducing crime?
So it all comes down to holding ourselves accountable for our own neighborhoods. So I do think we need to create and support a robust network of neighborhood groups. So that's not necessarily a crime watch. It's how do we bring people together to know their neighbors and watch out for each other. I do also think that we need to work on supporting proven mentoring programs that the schools have and community organizations have. We know it's a developmental asset for youth, and so making sure that mentoring programs are in place. I think that we need to work on blight elimination. So if we're creating an environment where crime can happen, then that's on us as a community, and reducing those is a priority. Enforcing codes for absentee landlords, right? We've got a lot of people who are living in places that they really shouldn't be living. And then we have out-of-state landlords that really don't care about that. Our alley system is outdated and under-maintained, so ensuring that we have enough maintenance of our alleys. Where things happen in alleys, they're usually not good. But if they're cleaned up and we pay more attention to them, I think that will go a long way. And looking at neighborhood lighting, looking at neighborhood sidewalks. And then developing partnerships, again, around a work-based learning task force. I think when people are financially stable, they have jobs, they have access to education and health care, they're a lot less likely to commit crime.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Mr. Moore?
I agree. I mean, it's been the topic of conversation in both platforms. The need for an increased staffing in the police department is necessary, not only to protect our community, but to protect the officers themselves. You know, when you talk to the mother or father of one of our police officers, even sheriff deputies, and they're concerned with whether or not they will see their son or daughter after their shift, I mean, is a concern. So I think like I said, we've all been discussing it. It's been that hot topic outside of roads and streets. I mean, since the primaries, it's good and reassuring to hear that both candidates, are committed to increase not only the staffing levels, but to improve the resources that they have, and that also includes not just vehicles and equipment, but the training and such. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's not the end all. It's not going to prevent it. It will deter it. But again, I agree with Ms. Smith's assessment that there is a need, and that we are all as a community responsible to not only make ourselves accountable, but our neighbors accountable. And I mean, that's a lot that neighborhoods are missing anymore, is the sense of neighborhood and knowing who is right next door. So, group effort.
Okay, our next question is Don, and Tyler, you would be first.
Tyler, what is your opinion of the financial health of Kokomo in respect to the city's income related to its debt? Have you been able to gather that type of information being on the county, being a county commissioner?
Not the cities. I mean, obviously, we've not done a full financial analysis yet to see. I mean, we've taken some initial looks at what the city's finances are. I mean, income versus expenses. They've obviously having a lot of available cash on hand is good for the city to be able to do what they feel or what we feel needs to be done project-wise and such. But I guess if the budgets that are set are not covering what, I mean, it goes back to public safety again and infrastructure and such. If what's being budgeted is not being fully utilized to its intent and continues to do so as when I become mayor, I would hope and pray that the city council would take a look at those and hold me and my department heads accountable for the proper use of those funds. So, long answer short, I'll know more in January when we run that financial analysis.
Ms. Smith.
I have reviewed the most recent State Board of Accounts, well, the 2017 financials, which were issued at the end of 2018. The new ones are coming out. But as of the last time I checked, we had a $22 million surplus. And so we do have, in reserves, right? So we are in a healthy financial position as a city. Additionally, I've gone through my entire platform, every single point, and the total potential max increase in spending is $5.1 million, which still brings us with a surplus for the current city budget. So spending increased dollars in reaching the amount budgeted for the public safety personnel, working on affordable childcare, working on buying equipment for our street department so that we can do some of the work ourselves across the entire platform. It's $5.1 million, which still brings us in with a surplus for the current budget.
I have a question. Fortunately, I think the cash on hand at the end of 2018 was $28 million, so that's good that we've got a little bit more to work with. But yes, kudos to the city. However, with a lot of the proposed projects that have been, I guess, announced, put in place and such in recent months, I mean, do you still feel that the funding is adequate? And you mentioned providing affordable daycare. I mean, so are you saying that the city should use some of that cash on hand to provide daycare? I mean, that's funded by the city?
So, a couple of things. No, not the surplus. What I'm looking at doing is finding a way to do a pilot program to reduce the cliff effect for families. So we have Child Care Development Fund vouchers, which provide free child care. We have On My Way Pre-K, which is funded pre-K for 4-year-olds from the state. And then after that, we have a lot of families, 25%, working in our community where they drop off a cliff. If they take a 50 cent per hour raise, they no longer get any of those benefits. So figuring out a way to bring city resources to city taxpayers so that they can take steps toward financial stability in a graduated scale is my intent with that specifically. Furthermore, if we're looking at how we're going to spend money in a budget, I can't find a specific number of officers or firefighters, but I do know you compared us to Elkhart, which is a huge increase, like 30 to 40 increase or more in what we have
okay,
now.
that's you've had.
Yeah.
That's the end.
So I would wonder how we
to
pay
move
for
on.
that.
We're
If we
ready
pay
to
for that
move.
out of reserves.
Next question, please. And that will be Jeff. And Abby, you go first.
Ms. Smith, what can a mayor do to improve the health of her community?
So, you know, I've been reviewing county health rankings from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation annually. We don't do great, right? We're 80th. We hover around there consistently. Our obesity rates, our smoking rates, infant mortality rates are all bad. The piece that stands out to me as the one that a city can do something about very realistically is one that I just talked about, which is children living in poverty. So we've got, in general, 1 in 5 children in our community living in poverty. That is not acceptable to me. When you dig further, we've got a huge racial disparity with 56% of African American children living in poverty. So what we can do there is go back to economic development and job training programs for adults and removing barriers like childcare to get families to work and providing for themselves and move our children out of poverty.
Mr. Moore, what can a mayor do to improve his community's health?
First of all, similar to increasing diversity and inclusion is to lead by example. Currently, the city employees are charged a higher premium simply because they live outside of the city limits. That probably needs to change. The county has instituted for years now a tiered program where the incentive to reduce premiums that the employees would pay is based on certain health screening items. And so that's something that I would look to change coming in is the, I guess, doing and encouraging the employees, you know, with incentive-wise for that. But as a community, as a whole, continue to look for the amenities. I mean, continue to invest in the trails. Those have been outstanding and have been a great asset. I mean, the use of those has increased, so I think we continue to look to keep those in the shape that they are and continue to find ways to run them south. I mean, we've talked about, or it was mentioned, you know, to keep looking to our neighbors to the south. The trail currently ends, so there's the opportunity to extend the trail south since that's a hot item. But I mean, a lot of what the city has done, we need to continue to build on to find ways to get people out and in the community. And no, Kara, I'm not bringing scooters. Sorry.
Okay, next question, Marcus. And Tyler, you answer first.
Running out of questions. You guys are extremely efficient. So let's try to tie in health, youth, and recent development. Let's talk about the ball fields on the interchange of Markland and 31. Thoughts on that project, and should that development open up development on other interchanges of 31?
We need to be very strategic on how that development of Championship Park comes to fruition. It's going to be a great asset to the community, economic development-wise. Obviously, the Hankey Group that has committed to be a part of that project has experienced great success with Grand Park. So we too can benefit as a community from that. But I know the push is to, or the selling point is to make it available to the youth sports leagues here in town. So again, we need to continue the conversation with those because, again, we need to be strategic on there. My concern with having the local youth leagues utilize the facility is its proximity to the neighborhoods. I mean, currently, many of these children that play ball at the local parks rely on foot traffic and their bicycles to get to games and practices, and so a huge concern of mine with making that available to the youth sports is getting the kids out there. So again, making sure that the community is part of that development, part of that plan, part of that strategy is going to be very vital. And then again, how that project is done, as you mentioned, will help spark future development on there, but I don't think it needs to be the retail, the hotels and such. Additional development along each of those interchanges needs to be more industrial in nature.
Same question. So I think we can't so closely tie youth and health to Championship Park, right? I think this is certainly, it does involve children playing sports, but I think it's more of an economic development piece of our puzzle. So, excuse me, I think I think it's a great development. I think we have a lot going with that, and then also Ivy Tech's new campus on the north side. But I do think if we're looking at further economic development, we have to look at that 931 Southern Corridor from where you enter from 31 up through to Community Howard, et cetera, so that we keep that strong and keep that connected south. I think if we continue development along a bypass, Washington Street becomes 31, becomes 931. So we can't continue to go that way. We've got to figure out what is a growth strategy, and in my opinion, it's south.
Okay, next question, Don, and Abby, you answer first.
A clarification on a couple points. Number one, the trolley system. Do either one of you, or what would your position be as far as charging a fee? Yes, no, maybe.
No.
Ever?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I just said no.
Ms. Smith, no set of circumstances would lead you to charge a fee.
I mean, we got a little bit bigger there, right? So never say never, but no. I mean, the intent of that trolley is to provide transportation and access to people to get around Kokomo. So the current way that is working is to leverage federal dollars and keep it free for people. So it doesn't work the way that we've currently got it, and I'm not sure I see a growth strategy without eliminating too many of those funds that make it possible. So no, I can't. I intend to keep the trolley free.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, I intend to keep the trolley system free and available as well, but again, not necessarily never. As you mentioned, because it is tied to federal funds, if legislation shifts and those funds are not available for its intended use, and we need to find ways to supplement and do so, then we'd have that conversation if it's something that's pulled out of the, continue to pull up, fully funded out of the city budget, and that's a conversation that we need to have with the city council.
So maybe.
So maybe, if needed.
And the second clarification is on employee health insurance. The city has a plan, the county has a plan. Did I understand you wanted to move the city more to the county? And Ms. Smith, if you're familiar with both plans, do you have an opinion?
So still Abby first or me?
Abby first.
Okay. So not familiar with ins and outs of each plan, but I do know that families need access to affordable health care. Right? It makes the difference between survival and stability. We need to ensure that the employees that we hire have access to vital, life-saving treatments. So you always want to push for wellness, but the reality is that if they have someone in their family with a catastrophic illness or a chronic illness, I would never want to punish them by charging them more in any way. Additionally, if we're talking about health care for and wellness of city employees, we have to talk about firefighter cancer rates and how do we invest in preventative measures to protect our first responders so that we reduce the likelihood that they'll get cancer in retirement. Their cancer rates are astronomical, so anything we can do on a prevention end with that, in addition to fighting for workers' comp at the state level, is what I would do for the employees of the city.
Tyler.
Yes. City and county both have great insurance plans, and both entities are very blessed, and their employees are as well. So would I bring a county insurance model to the city? I would. Again, I don't think that anyone's health is any more I guess, expensive just because they live outside of the city limits and they have to drive a little further. But no, I think, again, getting back to the health of the community, having the incentive for employees to reduce their premiums based on a set of health screenings would provide that opportunity for them to reduce their costs, increase the amount of money they would bring home. And it's worked in the county. We've not had a premium increase in a number of years, and yeah, it just...
Have you had a deductible increase?
Deductibles, we've had to adjust the deductibles, yes, based on claims, correct.
Okay, Jeff, and your question next, and Tyler will answer first.
Mr. Moore, is there a neighborhood in particular that you can cite that you have a plan for some sort of a project, some sort of an improvement? Is there like I said, is there a specific neighborhood you had this idea and you wanted to do some sort of a project to make the living area better?
Not a specific project, but I loved the fact that both District 1 candidates pointed out Bon Air School. I've spent time both at Pettit Park and Bon Air, and those kids need some love. But I think in that area, I would be very supportive of and be a co-champion, if you will, in looking at another public-private partnership, as was done with the YMCA, to give the Carver Center some love. The Carver Center has been an amazing asset to this community, not just to its neighborhood there on the north end, but folks, again, all over the community, all over the county, have taken advantage of the programs and services that the Carver Center has provided, and I think that I would like to see some attention finally be given to those. It's my understanding that the board has had plans in place, plans that they would love to propose and have not been given that opportunity, and so I think it's time.
Ms. Smith, same question?
Sure. I have two. I would start with the annexed portions of the city. I think that those residents have a lot of feelings and perspectives on the city services that they're getting, so that's where I would start. They're the newest, and I want to make sure their voices are heard. They have lighting issues, sidewalk issues, sewer issues, drainage issues, and so those are very important, especially the last two, on property values and making sure that they're getting, I guess, the bang for their city tax buck. The other thing I hear that seems actionable is connection to Jackson Morrow Park. So it's a beautiful park, it's a wonderful asset, and the neighborhoods around it don't all have access to it. From just west of 931 and Pine Valley all the way through the neighborhoods on the southwest side and a little further north. So those two, that's the two places I would start.
Okay, Marcus, your question next. And Abby, you answer first.
How reliant are we on one employer currently? And if that one employer decides to pursue automation, what's the plan to not be so reliant on that one employer?
So yes, right, we are extremely reliant on FCA, and they've been booming the last few years. So that's a good thing. So a couple of answers. One, I do think we need to start working on small business development, small to mid-sized business development. In my plan, creating a position specifically to work and partner with the Alliance and other community organizations to focus on small business development. We have innovative people here who have great ideas, and a lot of times they just need somebody to reach out to them. So instead of we have all these, an approach where we have all these resources, they're available, come get them, having someone go out and find people and support them and figure out how we can help them grow their business. The second thing, you mentioned automation. So ensuring that our workforce is skilled and ready for an adapting job market. That is just a reality that we are facing. And right now we have the people, but they don't have that mid-range skill set to be able to take those jobs. So you're going to hear me say it. You've heard me say it a lot. You're going to hear me say it again and again. But skilling up our current workforce and adults in the workforce who are underemployed to make sure that they're ready to take those jobs has to be a priority.
I agree. For years, we've been very dependent on the automotive industry, and we've already experienced the reduction both at GM and at Delphi, and that's a concern. And I know that diversifying the economy, looking to industries that are more non-durable in nature, those industries that can
is that right?
I know, yeah, is that right, yeah. But those that can weather the storms of recession, we need to look at that, and the emphasis on that needs to be, and I guess this is where we differ, or one of the areas we differ. We need to look to the 31 corridor. I know there's the concern that, if we start developing along the 31 bypass, that, that 931 becomes Washington Street and such, but we've already experienced or witnessed the fact that the businesses along 931 did not suffer, that they did continue to thrive, but I think looking to taking advantage of the availability along the bypass and be strategic in that is going to take some investment. We need to make site-ready and shovel-ready sites along those interchanges, and part of that is to the north. We've got a great resource to our north, our friends in Miami County with Grissom. I mean, so there's definitely the opportunity to help support the economy in those areas.
Okay, next question.
Hold on. She's
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. They have those businesses have continued to thrive without development there. So I think we can't assume that if we develop along the 31 bypass that the same would hold for the businesses on 931. Additionally, we have GM workers on strike right now, right? UAW workers on strike. We have the ability to decide to go after this asset in our community. So that building, the footprint of current General Motors, is an untapped resource. I realize that it is complicated, and I realize that we still have jobs there and we want to keep them as long as we can. But the proximity of that plant to Indianapolis and proximity to 231 and to 931 and to the rest of our city is an asset that we have to take back as the people of Kokomo.
If the city takes it back, it's going to be expensive. So if we're going to spend the money, I mean, I'm sure those that work with site selectors that have looked at the available space at the GM plant and its ground have seen how, as you mentioned, complex it is. It's not that easy, and I don't know that it's something that the city of Kokomo wants to be given or take on, but to work with GM to make it accessible. And as I understand it, that's been one of the struggles with getting investment here. So
just because things are hard doesn't mean.
Okay, we're ready to move on to the next question.
Oh, I agree.
Don, it's your turn, and Tyler, your answer first.
The last 12 years of the administration versus the previous 12 years of the other two administrations has been night and day. One of the fears many people have is that with the change of administration, we will not be as progressive as we have been the past 12 years. Do you have thoughts about how progressive you will be as mayor?
Well, I want the community to continue to grow. I think my commitment to looking at development along the bypass shows a progressive nature. The desire I have to work toward a public-private partnership with the Carver Center shows progressive. I mean, it's no, I think everything that I am committed to do shows a desire to see the community continue to grow, to cease relying on one particular industry, and to strengthen the community.
Abby?
Yeah. I think we are in a very fragile state in our recovery, and so I think we need to still be aggressive in ensuring that we do not slide back, that we keep pushing forward. Commissioner Moore is currently in a position to be able to work on these things, yet I don't see that. And so if he's promising progression or progressive attitude and fight for when he gets to be mayor, I don't understand why that can't happen now. He is a commissioner and he represents the city. If we need it now, then he's responsible for doing it.
And I think once again, I have demonstrated that. I mean, county on a number of occasions has been a partner with the development of the YMCA, the development, the investment in Ivy Tech. I mean, we've consistently been a partner with a lot of the progressive ideas and projects that have been done in the city of Kokomo. So I guess I question why you think I haven't.
I think it's the relative difference. So while the county may have been at the table, the relative difference in the investment financially from the city and from the county is stark. So with a $16 million YMCA, the city giving at least $4 and the land and waiving fees and carrying the debt, the county gave $500,000. There's a big relative difference in how hard they're willing to fight for that project and more.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Jeff and Abby, you answer first.
Okay, Ms. Smith, this is another question from the audience. Will we keep in Kokomo a recycling program in a Smith administration, and will trash collection continue to be done without a fee associated with it?
Yes, absolutely. I think especially recycling is a commitment to our future. You know, the climate change conversation is palpable right now, and we have future generations to think of. So to take recycling off the table is really going backwards. And trash is a vital city service. You know, sometimes this job isn't real showy and exciting. Sometimes it's just making sure the trash gets picked up. So I'm committed to providing those even if they're not flashy.
Thank you.
Oh!
I didn't mean to do that. Same question, Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Will we have a recycling program continue under a Moore administration, and will the trash collection continue without a fee associated with it?
Right. Well, trash collection is all still part of the taxes that we pay. But so yes, that will continue as is. Recycling, of course. I mean, we've been I've been a member of the recycling district for a number of years as well, and worked with the city as they instituted their curbside program. We removed the bins that so many folks utilized, and actually are asking that we bring back. But I mean, yes, recycling is a very integral part of protecting the environment. And we need to look at, I guess, the most cost-effective ways to do so with the service provider that's handling the recyclable material, because a lot of that market is struggling. So yes, I'm committed to continue the curbside recycling program and work closely with the recycling district and the county in order to best utilize that, and if the need be, make it more accessible.
Thank you.
Okay, we are almost out of time, so this will be our last question. Marcus and Tyler, you answer first.
All right, we're going to end on positivity.
Always.
Who's first?
Me.
All right. This question was asked before. I know you both were in the audience when it was asked. Kokomo's strongest asset, and how do the Moore or Smith administration make it that much stronger?
We will probably agree in this, but I mean, it's our citizens and our workforce. We have the individuals, we have the desire, we have the willingness to make the community better and to support businesses or corporations that choose to invest here, that are currently here. I mean, so a continued investment in the Alliance and the Chamber and small business, making sure Inventrek continues to thrive as an incubator as well. I mean, so finding opportunities to best utilize, you know, the workforce that's available here in the community.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Yes, the people are the biggest asset. You know, just like in a business, often the people are the biggest expense, right? But if you don't invest in that resource, then the return isn't there for your business. So if we invest in the people of Kokomo, ensure that they have a quality place to live, a job that pays the bills, access to affordable childcare, welcoming neighborhoods, safe neighborhoods, excellent schools, if we create an environment here where they can thrive, then there is no limit to where they can take us.
Okay, you each have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and Abby, you'll go first.
Leadership is not without its challenges, but a lack of leadership is full of dire consequences. Now is not the time for go along to get along or placeholders. We need an independent, fresh perspective, a strong vision, and collaborative leadership in the mayor's office. I am ready to serve. As I said when I launched this campaign, like many of you, I've watched the political process deteriorate over the last few years, maybe even decades. I've seen it get nastier and nastier. I've seen so-called leaders sit idly by and watch it happen, saying nothing when they know others are spewing hateful lies. I've seen it divide friends and family, or make people say things online that they would never say to someone's face. I've seen it push people further and further away from the public square, from each other. I invited you back, and you accepted. You opened the door when I knocked. You answered the phone when I called. Many of you helped me knock on those doors and make those phone calls. You have been heard. And together, we have drafted a 39-page, 3-plank, 12-point, 42 action item plan that is detailed, researched, and most powerfully reflective of what our community wants. We created it together. It's as much your plan as it is mine. I've spoken with 10,926 of you so far. I've walked over 200 miles of our city. I've heard you say your top concerns are safe neighborhoods, good jobs that pay the bills, and streets that work for you. Your priorities are my priorities. I am a public servant. The people of Kokomo deserve the best. You are hardworking, caring, and humble. You shouldn't have to settle for a mayor who shrinks back, who hides, who waits for someone else to take care of it. You deserve a mayor who stands up and fights for the future of Kokomo. With your support, I will be that mayor. Thank you.
As I discerned for the decision whether or not to run for mayor, I often went to devotions, inspiration, quotes and such, and came across one that kind of hit home and also personifies who I am and who I believe to be as a leader. It says, leading is not the same as being the leader. Being the leader means you hold the highest rank, either by earning it, good fortune, or navigating politics. Leading, however, means that others willingly follow you, not because they have to, not because they are paid to, but because they want to. Many of you know this. This is the 175th anniversary of the founding of Howard County. Howard County was the last county in Indiana to be established, but at the time it was named Richardville County. And it was done so out of admiration, respect, whatever, by the then state legislature for Miami Indian Civil Chief Jean-Baptiste Richardville. I am fortunate enough to be a descendant of Jean-Baptiste Richardville, and I think because of the respect that he garnered as the civil chief, not only within his tribe but within the state, was due because he was able to lead his tribe, bring folks together. Obviously, being the civil chief, he worked well with commerce and, again, was well respected. I have had the distinct honor, and it is very humbling to have received a number of endorsements from various groups in the community, the police, the fire, and most recently UAW-CAP. I mean, some of those are unprecedented, and in other times, a lot of that is because of my character. I am a team player. I am respectful for those who have come before me. I have no problem calling myself heir to the throne. And so it would be my honor to be this community's next civil chief, to bring the tribe together and lead us into a brighter future. Thank you.
Okay, could we have applause for both of our candidates? We want to thank everybody for coming out this evening to be here, and we also want to thank our candidates. Thank the panelists, Don Wilson, Jeff Kowalski, and Marcus Meisenek, and you all have a good evening. Thank you.